Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're welcome again to our podcast, which is the Bismillah podcast by Adl Advisory. Are you wondering what the conversation is going to be today? We are going to be exploring and discussing about a region in Africa that is looking at the growth of Islamic finance in the East Africa. Specifically, we are going into Tanzania. Kindly join the conversation and let's explore the current growth of Islamic finance in Tanzania, the trajectory, as well as the challenges that the industry is facing. Thank you very much, and you're welcome again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You are welcome to the Adl Advisory Bismillah podcast, where we discuss emerging activities, businesses, advancement, as well as awareness in Islamic finance industry across different sectors and also across different regions. You are most welcome to joining us with this conversation.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate for this opportunity, and I hope to share as much as possible, as well as learn the developments of in Islamic finance from other parts of the world.
Alhamdulillah, we've recorded growth as far as the Islamic finance industry is concerned in the East Africa, and not just the East Africa, looking globally around different countries in Africa. But we are going to be having our conversation today, trying to explore as well as deep dive into the growth of Islamic finance in East Africa majorly. We understand that recently we've seen the likes of Kenya, we've seen the likes of Tanzania leading the market as far as it is concerned. And we also understand that recently we've seen offshoots of different Islamic banks, Takaful, you coming from the Tanzania market and also leading different activities in Islamic finance, most especially looking at your activities around the Center for Islamic Finance Compliance and Awareness, right? So we'd want to understand what does it, what is the growth state right now, looking at different sectors in Islamic finance, the banking, the Takaful, and looking further into the capital market. How is the growth being followed up in Tanzania?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm pleased to see that we could have a bit of comparative figures and the trajectory of Islamic finance in East Africa. Mainly the countries that are up ahead on Islamic finance, Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda. And we have different images or developments in the three countries. Specifically for Tanzania, if you ask me on how is Islamic finance market share on the overall financing for the country, I can say it is unfortunately up to this point in time, the market share is still meager, very minor. It is within 1% or so to speak. So Islamic finance market is small. However, we look more not only on the share, but we ask ourselves, where did we come from? Where are we? And that will help us to see where are we going.
Where are we going?
In that case, then we're saying that we're having a growth that is highly promising. We have a growth of around 14.80% in the market in terms of assets in Tanzania, whereby in terms of banks or Islamic banking, so far we are having 5 banks offering Islamic finance in Tanzania. Out of these, 1 is fully-fledged and 4 are windows. In terms of Takaful, so far, alhamdulillah, the government, through the Tanzania Insurance Regulatory Framework, Regulatory Authority, has approved Takaful guideline, and we already have 2 operators, and we have products already in the market. The same goes to Sukuk. When it comes to capital market, alhamdulillah, we have a trigger that Sukuk, the government through the Capital Market and Security Authority, CMSA, has approved Sukuk, publicly known as subnational and Sukuk guidelines. And so far, the CMSCA has already approved issuance of almost 16 Sukuks worth around $500 million in Tanzania up to this point in time, out of which these Sukuks, 3 are public listed at the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. And out of the 3 that are listed, 1, the biggest, is 𝐊𝐸𝐴 Sukuk, issued by the government of Zanzibar. Not only that, as the Islamic finance ecosystem involves also, on the other side, we have halal, or an emerging ethical mutual funds, where we have one halal fund that hit the market and was oversubscribed at the moment, where people have opportunity, not only with the conventional, but they have halal fund as well. On the other side, we have, on social finance perspective, we have 2 key developments. One, we have Islamic microfinance, where we have at least 2 to 3 microfinance institutions that are applying the halal principles of recent and very recent. It's just the day before yesterday. The government of Zanzibar has launched the Islamic Social Security Fund. So far, this is where we stand in terms of the overall Islamic finance ecosystem. But this does not come as a surprise, and there is a lot more that is about to come. If time will allow us, then I'll say, where do we see ourselves in the next few years to come, based on what is already in the pipeline in Islamic finance. So to recap, the uptake up to this point in time, recorded update, is around 1%, but the growth is highly promising, and there is a lot on the pipeline.
There's a lot on the pipeline. I think that is majorly what we can also allude from different markets. Even when we talk about the advanced and even the matured markets, we realize that there's a lot to still achieve, and there's a lot to still bring about in terms of innovation and also accessibility. And we can also look at ease of doing and also assessing Islamic finance, even in emerging and as well as the advanced markets. The progress are still much recorded, still barely tapped, and which speaks to the fact that even looking at Tanzania, the growth that you've mentioned, talking about one fully-fledged bank and also 5 or 4 windows in the banking sector. I want us to have a much deeper conversation around Takaful, and if we can also explore other areas, because Takaful is very significant and very important, because it does not only cover insurance, it also covers social activities, because Takaful can also be used to drive social activities and accessibility as well. So I want us to have a deeper understanding. Right now in Tanzania, looking at the population of the Muslim numbers in Tanzania, and the access to protection, be it the access to tangible protection or intangible protection, how is the Takaful operators, how are they flourishing? And to what extent have they been able to capture the market? And what is the, if you would, what is the response of the market to Takaful compared to the conventional?
Thank you very much. Thanks for highlighting this very critical point, because at the point of development of Islamic finance, over the years, there has been an outlook such that, yes, Islamic banking is growing, but it was growing on its own. And the main challenge that the Muslims were facing in this sector was the fact that no banking products or Islamic finance product will go without protection according to the rules and the laws of the land. That whenever financing is involved, there need to be protection, consumer protection. Now, alhamdulillah, when this has come up in 2022, when the government approved the Takaful guidelines, immediately one of the companies, which again, as a blessing, is 100% owned by the government of Zanzibar, opened the first Takaful operating company. But not later, then another company joined. So now we have two big sizable companies that are taking up the Takaful and they are offering the protection. The uptake from the market. Let us talk generally as Tanzania.
Okay.
The uptake of insurance generally is significantly low. So not to speak about Takaful, and Takaful is following the same suit.
Yeah.
However, there is one advantage that we can see how Takaful can easily flourish, because as up to this point in time, the main type of Takaful that is operating in the country is a general Takaful. And significantly, people use it more on vehicle insurance than all other types of general insurance. Now, on the vehicle insurance, one thing we see is that the pricing is standardized. The government has issued guidelines on the cap based on the price and other factors of the vehicles. So, if I'm to insure my car through the conventional way, in terms of amount, it will never be different when I do with the Takaful. Therefore, because people of faith or people hungry of ethical financing, they were looking forward to this. Those who are already aware, the shift is very quick and more or less automatically. So we can see that a shift so far. The slow uptake at the moment can easily be attributed to the low awareness. Awareness is very key if we are to talk more. That are people aware that there is Takaful? Do people understand what is actually Takaful? When you say, many people will be, wow, is it? But the moment we open up and let people know what is Takaful, the uptake is very high, especially when we look at the value proposition, and just let people know, despite being ethical, also just letting the people know that you are no more insuring or protecting your property, but you are becoming a partner in investment. Whatever you are putting is yours. At the end of the year, we look at the pool and say, how much has it been used to cover the calamities? And whatever is remaining is ours, compared to the conventional insurance, where whatever remains is for the insurance company, and they have to think of how to invest in the future. So the uptake is good. The outlook is positive, only if we put more efforts into the awareness so that people become aware. The industry is infant because the guidelines came not long ago. The companies are only two at the moment, with few agents here and there, and no significant brokers so far. On the other side, the Takaful, we consider to be still infant, because so far, one type of insurance, Takaful, is general Takaful. And we have a lot of queries, questions, and thirsty from the Ummah that they're looking for health Takaful. When it comes to family Takaful, we are still behind. But this has not yet been operationalized. That is on one side. On the other side, as the industry is growing, we have a challenge of Takaful. What is in the insurance, on the conventional insurance side, is we have significantly known reinsurance organizations, but we don't have for Takaful. And we have faced some challenges when especially organizations, these Islamic financial institutions, go for issuances of Sukuk, where you need to have protection for the investors. And the law of the land needs to have this protection depending on the magnitude of the investment. Now, this magnitude up to now, the current two operating companies cannot by themselves. We are left with two painful options. One, we either do Takaful from outside the country, or we do it through reinsurance with the conventional insurance
Interesting.
companies.
Interesting. I think you've touched on several very important parts, especially when you look at Takaful and also the need for awareness and customer orientation. Education is very key, especially when you are bringing in new products to the market. And interestingly, those consumers, they are ready to consume if only they understand what they want to consume, and they are also fully aware of the benefits associated with the product they want to consume. And you can't separate education from products, and that is why all products, be it the pharmaceutical product or you want to talk about the automobile product, they all come with a manual, right? The manual is the education, is the sort of orientation that guides the user to how best they can maximize the benefits in the product, right? So in this case, looking at the fact that you said the market has not been scratched at all, not barely scratched, it has not been scratched. We have just 2 Takaful operators, just like you mentioned. We have need for Takaful. We also have need for orientation of the brokers. You said there are barely few numbers of brokers that are available. The agents as well that serve as the intermediary between the customers and also moving back to the Takaful operators, they also need to be educated. So there's virtually need for a tripartite approach to training and also providing orientation, public awareness. How do you think all of this can be brought together to see how to really advance the market, thereby providing much needed information and awareness for the customers on one hand, providing capacity development and growth for the agents and brokers, and at the same time, not forgetting the regulators. So what do you think? What's your thought?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate on this one because from our end, my outlook on it is our development in the industry has been a staggered approach. Staggered approach in what sense? That when we started, the main focus was to see how do we convince the regulators that Islamic finance can provide an alternative to financing of development activities. Now, with that, it means more efforts had gone into discussions, lobbying, and convincing the regulators. Alhamdulillah, we're at that stage where the regulators have come on board. They have, for example, approved the Takaful guidelines. Now, the next stage where we are going to is the awareness of the overall ecosystem on critically what does Takaful do, how can it be utilized to be effective, and so on. Now, we from Center for Islamic Finance Compliance and Advice, we have devised some of the mechanisms, and we have on the pipeline some few things that we think should be done. We have talked about the regulators. For regulators now, we have moved. They've already issued the guidelines, approved and allowed the Takaful to operate, but they still need more capacity on how to regulate. Now, the same thing goes as it is already. The banking sector is well regulated, but when it comes to Islamic finance products, they have been oriented from time to time, so efforts are still ongoing. So when it comes to the regulators, we say capacity building is needed at the level of how do they regulate. That's why even in our presence here, I'm here in Malaysia. I came for conferences in Islamic finance, but I had this opportunity to see how do I meet the giant institutions, infrastructure institutions responsible for governing Islamic finance. For example, yesterday I was at the International Islamic Finance Services Board, IFSB. IFSB, they provide support to regulators categorically on how to regulate and so on. So we can say what needs to be done is forging collaboration with international organizations that can build the capacity of the regulators. On the other side, Once the regulators have already approved, they need to approve licensing of operators. Then there have been a question all the times. We do approve operators from which frameworks and guidelines? So here is where, again, awareness comes in, where we need to have certification programs to say, what's the difference between an operator for Takaful and an operator for a conventional insurance? So a need here in terms of awareness is actually technical awareness to the operators on what they need to do and what they need not to do when it comes to Takaful. At another level is operators as only two organizations. They need to ensure that these services reach out to the communities. We have in between brokers and the agents. There needs to be also certification programs. In this case, again, technical. Because the operators, the brokers and the agents are the face of the service. Once they understand well what is Takaful, what is and what is not, it will be easy, because these are the ones who meet the customers when in need and looking for the options. However, we would like not to forget the most important agents of change. These are our masajids, places of worship, because for every community at every street, they trust most the imam, the street imam, on what is considered halal and what is haram. So once these imams understand what is Takaful, how does it operate, then it will be easier to reach out to the community and to ensure. So when we talk of public awareness, we look at it this way, that we need to be down at the level of the community. These are the imams. Second level is agents who are selling and clarifying what Takaful is all about. The brokers are in between. Then we go to the operators, but without forgetting the regulators.
Interesting. I think that is a very clear roadmap, looking at how to bring all this together, and also looking at ensuring that none of these stakeholders are left out of the calculation. And again, when you look at the need for training, is very very needed, and at times it could be overemphasized. But it's necessary to be overemphasized, because when you look at the role of equipping all these stakeholders with the right level of information, the right level of knowledge, you see how fast it is to ensure that all of this could happen immediately. Putting into a clearer perspective the level of Islamic finance development here in Malaysia, looking at how the regulators, how the government have been able to draft policies that guide Islamic finance from milestone to milestones, and looking at how they've also empowered the practitioners, and how they've also embedded the Islamic scholars in the dissemination of this information, taking it down to all looks and crowning. You realize that this has been a model that really works and can also be flipped over. And on the last note, just to ask on the last note, when we look at how the growth and the momentum is going, what do you see? How do you see that the growth as far as Tanzania is concerned within the region? What can we be expecting in the next 5 years, being an immediate years, and in an advanced year of 15 years? What should we be expecting in terms of growth and adoption?
Thank you very much. As I said at the beginning, that while Islamic finance, the market share is very meager, it's only around 1%, so we say as a single figure, but the growth has been promising of 14, almost 15%. Now, what is most importantly, out of what has happened already in the last 3 to 5 years, that is also accompanied with what we see ahead of us in what is already in the pipeline. The following are the most important hints that we have at our that can tell where the market is going in the next 5 to 10 years. First and foremost, out of our collaborations with the regulators, in November 2024, the Central Bank of Tanzania, BOT, issued a draft non-interest banking regulations, which have already gone through the stakeholders for stakeholder opinions, and they've already been tabled to the parliament to be an act. So, where we see the whole of Islamic finance ecosystem soon, very soon, is going to have a regulatory framework. Not only that, we have on the pipeline an Islamic finance roadmap for every country. While you have a regulation, then there is a need to have a roadmap whereby, now in talking with the regulators, we have talked significantly with two main regulators, the IFSB as well as Islamic Development Bank. They are both ready to undertake the Islamic finance roadmap. What does Islamic finance roadmap do? It's an assessment of where the Islamic finance sector is in the country, compared to where an ideal Islamic finance sector need to be. We have a gap analysis in between. With those gaps, then we ask ourselves, what needs to be done in order to get there? Fortunately, in Tanzania, we already had that kind of an assessment in 2017, where World Bank did that critical assessment, drew up the report and the roadmap on what needs to be done. So at the moment, in the sector, we call it a sleeping giant. Now, what we are seeing in our collaboration with these key players, we are ready to revive that. So we use that as a baseline to assess where are we compared to where we were in 2017. So that's another milestone that is on our way. Good news is that very recently, and hopefully in this November, Tanzania, we are going to sign an MOU with the IOFI, which is an accounting and auditing organization for Islamic financial institutions that is responsible for standard setting. They have standards in Islamic finance. Now, we have managed to get stakeholders to sponsor translation of these standards, which Sharia standards, mostly their primary language is Arabic, and then they are translated into English. We would like these standards to be in Kiswahili, so much so that practitioners, local practitioners, will be able to understand them at ease. So that's another level whereby once we have these standards in Kiswahili, then they will be easily cascaded to the community. Another milestone that is ahead, the government of Zanzibar has already commissioned and given mandate to the Zanzibar Institute of Accountants, Auditors, and Tax Practitioners to adopt the Islamic finance standards and guidelines. When I say standards and guidelines, I mean IOFI standards and the guidelines from IFSB. Zanzibar, from its end, from the parliament, they are ready to adopt Islamic finance standards and guidelines. In this case, the way we are used to see that banks and financial institutions are audited in line with the IFRS or international auditing standards, they will equally be assessed in line with the IOFI, IFSB standards, as well as FCCA Academy. Not only that, Zanzibar has an appetite of becoming an Islamic finance hub. To gear up this one, with the growth of the capital market, Zanzibar is in its roadmap in the next few years. It wants to have Zanzibar Stock Exchange. And to start with, it would like to start on the right footing as an Islamic capital market. So with all of this, now, with what we already have, CIFCA as a center, we have collaborations with main infrastructure players in the market, 𝐈𝐬𝐽, we have a collaboration with 𝐈𝐬𝐽, we have an MOU. IFSB, we have an MOU with IFSB. We have international Islamic financial markets in Bahrain. We have an MOU with them. Now we have an an international Islamic rating agency for letting the capital market instruments. We have an MOU with them. Not only that, we have an MOU with an international online university where in Tanzania, CIFCA is the examination center for IOU, where as the main challenge for all the markets is the qualified professionals in Islamic finance. CIFCA is a center for 𝐈𝐬𝐽, is a center for registration, is a center for examination, and it's also a center for training Islamic finance professionals. And as we go out, we find collaborations with other organizations. Here in Malaysia, for example, we came and we have a collaboration with Institute of Islamic Finance and Banking from the 𝐈𝐬𝐽. So in this case, we see if all of these are implemented, then we can see Islamic finance progressing well in the next 3, 5, and 10 years.
Interesting. I mean, trying to see how much the Tanzania government has in plan for the growth of Islamic finance in your region, and also looking at how you have also been all out trying to see to collaboration with global regulators, and also collaboration with the Islamic finance movers as far as practitioners, the private corporate organizations are concerned. And again, I also believe that as part of your relationship, you also have a quite formidable relationship with Adl Advisory, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So looking at your relationship with Adl Advisory, and as well as the plans that you have in areas of collaboration with training, collaboration with advancing access to Islamic finance advanced markets in area of expertise exchange and industry exposure. How much of this do you see or think is going to advance as well as support your growth in Tanzania?
Thank you very much. I'm glad for asking this question. And our relationship with Adl takes us in a very long journey. Out of the same spirit of going out, seeking for support and collaborations, I can recall it's about 3 to 4 years ago, for the first time I met Mufti Yusuf in Bahrain. And in discussing about developments in Tanzania, I came to know about Adl. And straight what I said, CIFCA, the way it operates through using collaborations with subject matter experts. And therefore, as we speak to date, we have had, the first time we were opening our office in Zanzibar, we invited Adl Consulting and to see how the market is prospering. Now in this trip I've come here, we have agreed on few things, and these are the hanging fruits, as I can say. Number one, we said one of the challenges with the Takaful is certification. So we have agreed with Adl to have certification programs at the levels we mentioned. We need to have certification program for the operators, certification program for the agents, and awareness campaigns for the imams and sheikhs, because these are the game changers as far as we are concerned. That is on one side.
Yeah.
On another side, we have agreed with the Adl Consulting. CIFCA is a training center for 𝐈𝐬𝐽. 𝐈𝐬𝐽 of recent has come up with the syllabus and curriculum for certified professionals. And we have agreed with Adl Consulting to start immediately this November to prepare students to sit for the CPSS in December. So we have these Shariah standards and so on. So our first batch is going to be this November. But the objective is to see ourselves, come June, we have fully-fledged sessions where we prepare students for the 2 exams that lead to the CSAA as well as the CIPA. Now, that on the side of the collaborating on these technical programs. However, we found it that because we are dealing with the regulators, and the regulators need to know what is happening, but they need to have a benchmark and see what is happening in the other parts of the world.
Yep.
We have agreed with the Adl Consulting to have special, bespoke, or master classes for regulators, whereby we either bring in regulators to Malaysia, they will have 2 or 3 days where they have theoretical training on the background of Islamic finance, the trajectory, and how can it contribute towards development. And then we take them around and show they are co-regulators in the country. What do they already do in Islamic finance
Industrial
for
exposure.
them to adopt the best practices into the country? And as we speak, we expect it to have an exposure visit in December this year for regulators.
Interesting. I think this has served a very wonderful session, and looking at how you've also highlighted the growth, trying to have a short recap of where we started with the conversation, trying to explore the current advancement in the Islamic finance landscape of Tanzania. And interestingly, we have been able to identify more of the areas of need in terms of the gap. We've seen the gap. We've seen the need for training, awareness, publicity, for the product accessibility for the customers, and also bringing together all the stakeholders that are much needed to achieve the growth of Islamic finance. I think this has been a very wonderful conversation, Mr. Salum Lupande, and we are very happy that you joined us, and also speaking to us as the Secretary General of the Center for Islamic Finance, Compliance and Advice. We really appreciate your presence. For all our participants listening to this conversation, you can always take a rewatch of this podcast, as well as share, like, and also engage. We are going to be bringing forth much more conversation in the future. Thank you so much, Mr. Salum, once again. Really appreciate your stopping by. You've been going around the world and you are here in Malaysia. Thank you very much, and do have a safe flight back to Tanzania.
Thank you very much.